Recently, teamfight tactics content creator BunnyMuffin, who you may know from his YouTube guides, potentially his Twitch streams, has been under a lot of attention. Not really the kind of attention you want as a content creator and really as a human being. And this is due to the fact that he created a video that's titled, "Can We Just Watch the TFT Tournament?" And if you're asking yourself, that sounds kind of harmless. We'll get into that. But first, I kind of wanted to introduce myself a little bit. So who am I? I'm Gooba. I'm a straight white man who was born and raised in Ohio, who streams on Twitch. Not the most serious of people, admittedly, but I've been very fortunate to build a community of people of wildly different ethnicities, sexualities, gender identities. And if you've been around long enough, you've likely heard me passionately discuss various social and political views. Why should you listen to me? And I'll be honest with you, you shouldn't. You should listen to the voices that the discussions around gender identity and inclusion and the lack thereof truly impact the most. But for better or for worse, and it's almost certainly for worse, the people that really need to hear this discussion most likely identify with me more so than other people speaking on the topic. And I'm sure you've heard, but you probably have not watched the video. I have though, so I'm going to speak on that. I also want to be transparent. I want to let you guys know that I am not somebody who has any sympathy for bigotry or those who open the discussion that normalizes it. This is not going to be a video that is nearly as charitable to those who hold or may share these opinions as we've seen from the community. Because I'll be honest with you, those people in the community are better than I am. I have no sympathy for grown adults who, quite frankly, should know better. If you'd like to have a full idea of all of his perspectives, I do ask that you watch this video, you read his tweet longer. I think it'll give you context as to what we're about to discuss. Now, I put everything up on screen, so if you don't want to watch it, don't do it. I mean, I've done it a lot.
But you can't help but notice people banned left and right, and then you gotta wonder why. When I watch a TFT tournament, I just want to watch and see some good TFT. However, this weekend of watching any main broadcast TFT stream, you're going to encounter excessively modded channels, likely due to having the pronouns present on all the player cards throughout the entirety of the tournament, even during the games. This weekend, the chat was plagued with people talking about pronouns, getting banned about talking about pronouns, even if it was something as innocent as saying, "How come the pronouns are being shown so frequently?" or "Why does it say he, him?" These aren't direct quotes, but anyone who has watched the stream this weekend or any official TFT stream that's run by Giant Slayer or Wisdom knows exactly what I'm talking about because they run the chat like 1984.
First thing that I want to call out that dictates a lot of the narrative of this video is he immediately begins with the phrase that we've heard before if you're familiar with sports. Now, I'm not going to go and recount all the details of what has happened with Colin Kaepernick and the effect that kneeling in protest of the national anthem left on the NFL. That phrase being, I just want to watch and see some good TFT, which is, in my opinion, it's analogous to people who, when faced with the reality of police brutality and racial inequality in America, they sat in their chairs and they were just like, I'm just trying to watch some football. I want to see the black man throw the ball. I don't care about none of this social justice. I just want to see the game. That's exactly what that sounds like. And it's ridiculous. Then goes on to recount the battlefield that is Twitch chat being moderated. He goes as far as to compare how the chat is run by Wisdom, a production company within the TFT esports scene, to 1984 by George Orwell, which is coincidentally oftentimes used to debate free speech by conservative political figures, mostly in reference to bans or suspensions off social media platforms for hateful rhetoric, transphobia, racism, organizing coups on January 6th against the Capitol building. So I asked, I know he kind of answers this later, but I have an even better response to that. But I ask, what is the alternative if banning hate speech in chat is Orwellian? Do we let hate speech run rampant? Do we let them say a little slur as a treat? You tell me. I mean, be honest. And to be clear, I'm not saying that he shares his opinion, but I can't help but shake the feeling that it rings a bell that's all too familiar in the modern day political sphere. But enough of that. Moving forward, he then goes on a rant about how Wisdom is intentionally baiting transphobes.
I did not want to make this video, but based on the chat experience and the baiting of it, and yes, I do think the production company is baiting. My viewing experience is ruined because of this chat interaction, because it became political instead of about the game.
Well, he brings up the baiting. For those of us that have any semblance of awareness, you would realize that Giant Slayer isn't baiting anything. They're making the broadcast a more inclusive place. And ultimately, if it bothers you and disrupts your chat experience, then you might be the problem. If you want to just watch TFT, then watch TFT. Nothing is stopping you. You don't have to look at the chat. You're not getting any value. What are you going to Twitch chat for insight? You going for high level discussion? Well, I mean, you're scraping bottom of the barrel. It's Twitch chat, man. Your experience is not being ruined. Just full screen the fucking thing. I mean, let's be real. Come on, grow up.
Most people want to avoid the topic because it's seen as political. You notice this immediately upon watching a co-stream that watches the main broadcast. People in those chats would also mention the excessive display of pronouns, but none of those moderators engage with those messages, and the streamers certainly don't either because they are afraid to lean one way or the other because they don't want to lose viewers or get canceled. Fun fact, any streamer who ignores political statements most likely lean towards the non-politically correct view. Luckily, I'm in a place where if I lost the entirety of my TFT channel, I would still be fine financially and socially.
So this part of the video is actually one of my favorite. You know, it's pretty loaded, and I think that if you read between the lines, you kind of get to hear the message. So we'll start with a fun fact. It's clear that we're using this word loosely, so we'll run with it. For someone who's very clearly studied the Ben Shapiro School of Facts and Logic, we're going to start calling things that have no data to prove a fact. So, fun fact, it's so blatantly clear that what he's doing is what us in the biz would call a self-report. Let's go back and read it, right? Fun fact. Any streamer who ignores political statements most likely lean towards the non-politically correct view, which is why they don't talk about it. Luckily, I'm in a place, and we'll just stop it there, because he tells you everything that you need to know. I mean, he's directly acknowledging that this is not politically correct. He's directly acknowledging that he's in a position that he could speak out on this and, you know, face no repercussions because I guess he's got it made. And all the other streamers, they just don't speak out on it because they don't have it made. They haven't been on their Sigma male grind set like he has. Clearly, it can only mean one thing, right? They must be bigoted. That's the only reasonable conclusion. But maybe it's because a lot of streamers, and I say streamers, but honestly, I mean people. Because realistically, I think that this applies to just about every single one of you in some capacity, right? You might not have the knowledge or the lived life experiences to even combat bigots in your chat who, I mean, we know it. They're all debate Andes, right? They got all these, again, all the fucking facts and logic. It makes it almost impossible for an everyday person to feel like that they're in the right with their beliefs. I mean, it's very, very common for right-wing people to garner support through this. They've got an argument for literally everything, and it's using very, very anecdotal data points that for somebody who isn't living the experience or who isn't very well versed in the topic, it makes it almost impossible to come out of a discussion or a debate with a bigot who pulls up some cherry-picked stat like 100% of all Twitter Blue users are cringe Elon bootlickers who get off when the libtards get owned by the dank memes. And when they say that, you know, like, it doesn't feel right. Like, that doesn't feel correct, but you can't prove it. You don't know all this stuff. You don't have the stat book on deck. Either you do one or two things. You argue with them. You know as well as I do how that goes. They get off from this shit. They get some hard. They love to run in circles, yapping about something that's been spoon-fed to them by Tucker Carlson or Ben Shapiro or, you know, name it. Any of those right-wing figures, they all say the same shit or ignore it. Right? You brush it off. You try to get out of that situation because it's uncomfortable. You don't have the ability to respond. You can't expect your everyday person to be able to do that. But what you can expect of them is to be tolerant, to be inclusive, to treat others well in their personal life. That's what you can expect of these people. And streamers are no more than people. What I do ask of streamers, or anyone with a platform really, is to use your voice, right? You have tens of thousands of people that will watch you and that they truly look up to you and they'll be influenced by your decision. Me, I grew up in Ohio. I grew up in an area where there was not very much racial diversity. And despite my ethnic background, right, on one side of my family, I'm Puerto Rican. On the other side of my family, I'm a mix of just about every European country that you can imagine. But despite that, I was still perpetuating the racial stereotypes that I was exposed to by, you know, the early days of the internet, the Call of Duty lobby, the things that I hear my also uneducated peers say, despite being the furthest thing from the truth. But you know what helped? The content creators I watched, people that I met in high school, in college, the trips that I was so fortunate to go on put me in areas where I was the only person that looked like me in the crowd. And it really started to put things into perspective that, you know, there's a lot more out there, that there's not these narrow world beliefs that we have to live by, right? We can open our minds and we can change. For all you know, as a person with a voice, you could have been the one that changed me. You can be the one who changes future me. You have to look at your position as a little bit more than just being someone who plays games. Maybe you're a person who wants to speak out, but you don't know how, right? You don't want to misspeak. You don't want to offend anybody. The best thing you can do is to educate yourself. Speak to the members of your community who have been affected by exclusionary and unnecessarily politicized acts. They're there. They would love to speak with you on the topic. For me, I've been vocal. I've put my pronouns in my bio. It's very clear that I'm a straight cisgendered man, but it does help welcome other people and publicly show when a bigot comes to my channel that that's who I am. And of course, I get people who do the meme, I'm a fucking attack helicopter. But what you have to do is you just have to battle that. Just like, this isn't the place for you. Sorry, ban them, get them out of there. That's what you have to do to show your support. And those are not the people you want in your community. Those are not the people you want in your ear all day. Those are the same people that are probably criticizing every single thing that you do, that are backseating your gaming decision. Ultimately, it's a win-win. You get the worst people out of your chat and you build a place that makes someone feel better about themselves, that makes somebody feel like a human. They're not this outcast member of society that in our current political sphere is currently being targeted and directly getting their rights removed. It's very small, simple things that as a streamer you can do to make things better. It doesn't even apply to streaming. You can do this at your workplace. You could do this at the club that you run at your college. You could do this within your friend group. This is applicable to so much more than just streaming. And I know I've been on a rant for a minute, but ultimately what I want to say is don't let BunnyMuffin's rhetoric, which you'll hear from more than just BunnyMuffins, make you feel like you're complicit in this bigotry. I've taken myself out of this, but I'll just be honest. I was in the co-streams he's talking about. I was in 2 of them. I banned people in those co-streams. And the very people that he's claiming to be his partners in crime are some of the most loving and supportive and accepting people in the TFT community. So don't listen to that shit. But before we move on, I'm going to read another one of his quotes and we'll address that real quick. But if I get banned from the game because I express a logical opinion that would improve the viewing experience of watching a competitive game, then so be it. You could already tell that he's preparing to be on this Andrew Tate escaping the Matrix shit. And thankfully for us, he's lacking every single trait that makes Andrew Tate attractive to the impressionable youth. Realistically, his logical opinion it's an opinion. An opinion that minimizes an entire subset of people and quite literally dehumanizes them. He says he has a solution and he's just talking about not having the pronouns shown in the middle of the game. We'll be covering that, trust me. So he goes on to say, and again, we're here to watch TFT, not know a player's life story. Instead of showing pronouns where they did, why not show something about the player relevant to TFT? And if you know anything about the TFT competitive scene and its roots in development, there have been multiple surveys and open forum discussions with the community that Wisdom and other content creators surrounding esports have directly asked and said, what would make you have a better streaming experience? What would attract you to come to the mainstream? What kind of content do you want to see? And you know what one of the most overwhelming answers were? We want to know more about the players. We want to know who is playing, not this nameless face who shows up to win a tournament and then disappears into the shadows forever. We want to get to know who the best TFT players are. And this is exactly that. This is Wisdom responding to the people's requests. I mean, this is just one example of many of Bunny showing just how out of touch he is with the TFT community. He's just speaking for the vocal minority. Thankfully, and I'm very proud of the TFT community and those surrounding it for their actions in response to this video. For the most part, the rest of the video is a whole lot of nothing. There's a couple things that I will touch on in more detail, but for the most part, we'll try to just speed run it for the sake of all of our sanity. Despite how much we have been told that we have not watched this video, I've watched this enough times to cover all of you. The rest of the video, like I mentioned, mostly just things like elementary school revelations.
Did you actually know that the top 3 players were all 1-star ginger stab dangos? The reason why I mentioned this is that no one actually noticed the dango patterns until I did when I typed it in chat, and then after that, everyone spammed dangos for the rest of the stream.
That's crazy, bro. I'm gonna keep it a bug, bro. Good job. You got Twitch chat to copy a pasta. The first person ever. Imaginary scenarios.
When I introduce myself, I don't use my pronouns. At the same time, if someone feels it's important for them and they say something like, hi, my name is first name, last name, and my pronouns are pronoun 1 and pronoun 2, I'm not going to scream at them to not do it, even though I don't do it myself.
This sounds like he spent a long night pondering. Hey, how can I convince these people that I've actually spoken to somebody who is non-binary or transgender? How can I make it sound human? He went, bazinga. I just asked the AI overlords. Everybody knows AI is the future, and he punched it into ChatGPT. I mean, this is something that would very clearly never happen to any normal human being, right? The reality is, if you ever run into a transgender or non-binary person, the chances are, you know how they're going to introduce themselves? Hi, here's my name. That'll be about the majority of your interaction that you would have in the real world. The only time that you're going to have pronouns forcibly put upon you are if you do misgender them, especially if the person that you're speaking to goes by non-binary pronouns. If you accidentally misgender somebody, chances are they'll just politely correct you. This situation's happened to me. I've misgendered somebody because I assumed that they were a binary gender, he, him, she, her. You know what they said? You know what happened to me? They got their pitchforks. They canceled me. The frogs are gay now. Hunter Biden's running the world. It's a communist utopia. Now, of course, that doesn't happen. Only in sick, twisted, conservative fantasies are these scenarios where you're getting screamed at and punched and kicked when you accidentally do it. Chances are when, vitriol gets thrown your way for misgendering somebody is because you fucking did it on purpose. Let's be real. He then goes into various boogeyman conspiracy theories. Again, a trend that we see often from a certain member of the political spectrum.
A moderator stated that the players voluntarily gave their pronouns, which I am suspicious about. In past tournament signups run by Giant Slayer, they made pronouns a mandatory field, meaning that it wasn't voluntarily provided. Recently, they changed it so that the field is optional. Whether it was or wasn't for mid-set, I don't actually know.
And he's right. He doesn't actually know. Surprise, surprise. I went and checked my email, and I actually applied to some of the tournaments in set 7s. Oh, wait. You know what? It actually does look like it's required. At least not exactly. What he's doing here is telling you half-truths. He's gaslighting you. Because in set 7, the very first tournament, Astro Cup, did require you to put in your pronouns. There was no mention of if comfortable or anything like that. But from Jade Cup on, which was the very next tournament, every single tournament registration that I'm aware of and that I've validated with various competitor friends, including the Miss-Set Invitational, all had if comfortable. To tack onto this, BunnyMuffin's played in the most recent tournaments in set 8. He's made videos about it. So he has the registrations. That tells me one of two things. Either he's making videos on a topic that he obviously doesn't care enough to validate, or he's pushing an agenda. And if it hasn't been wildly clear to you at this point, I don't know what's gonna make it clear. But there is a warning that all of us watching this video must heed.
Maybe an angry horde comes after me. If you are the type of person to do this, I don't want you following me in the first place because that makes you a malicious person. If that is you, just unfollow right now.
Fuck. Sorry, that's me. My bad. I'll take care of that right now. All right, so we got your link tree open. All right, let's check out Twitch. Okay, let's make sure we unfollow there. Oh, damn. Okay. You know what? Let's try the next one. All right, let's try the YouTube. Make sure we unsubscribe there. Okay, guess we can't do that. How about Twitter? Surely we can unfollow on Twitter. Oh, fuck. Sorry. I tried. We tried to unfollow you, but we just couldn't. Should you cancel him? Should you unfollow him? I'll be honest, I don't care. This video isn't about him. Correction. I guess in a sense it is about him. In the context that he made the video, he's bringing up a talking point that is all too present in modern day society, right? It's these issues about, should we have pronouns? Should we have gender neutral bathrooms? Should we progress as a society? And, I do make a lot of jabs directly at BunnyMuffins, but at the end of the day, I would do this regardless of who was doing this in the community. It's nothing about him. He has takes, he sucks, but should we cancel him? It's not on me. It's not on me. You guys make the decision of how you consume content and how you support creators.
There's no room for bigotry on this channel.
I like how he just throws up right at the end. There's no room for bigotry on this channel. And it's like the only content that he's consumed in the past year is like 80s vampire movies. And if he says, you can't come in the house, rather, there's no room for bigotry here, it absolves him from all the hateful rhetoric that he's at the very least alluded to. It essentially puts up this barrier that now prevents anybody from criticizing him for this statement. He's essentially just crossing his arms and saying, oh, I'm the bigot for minimizing trans and non-binary voices? No, actually, it's you. No, you. No, you. It would be a shame anyone were to criticize him, especially considering he put up that message. Looking back at the contents of this video and the criticisms I've had, at the end of the day, that makes me a bigot, then so be it. In the context of this video, then I guess I'm bigoted. Anybody else who's spoken out or criticized this video falls into that category too. So there's a whole bunch of new bigots on the block, I guess. And you can call me Big Gooba. At the end of the day, you're entitled to your opinion just as much as you are entitled to be criticized for your opinion. If you're in a position where you can post a 14-minute video to 100,000 people about a topic that doesn't even concern you, well, except for your ability to see PogChamps, then honestly, you're in a position to be criticized for perpetuating bigotry on such a large platform. You're also in a position to lose fans, to lose business, even lose friends. While we're on the topic of opinions, he also seems to be of the opinion that because League of Legends doesn't have a constant display of pronouns used, that means TFT shouldn't either. And as you know, that because all esports are defined by League of Legends, no pronouns there, no pronouns here, it's open and shut. That's it, pack it up. And I know I shouldn't, but I feel like I should expect more of them. Maybe we can do a thought experiment because his video is filled with those. Have we thought about exactly why there's no pronouns in the LCS? Like why there's no transgender people? Why there's no non-binary people? Why there's no cisgendered women? Like, have we thought about the barrier of entry for anyone to get into professional esports, especially team-based ones? You know, for years, League of Legends was built around team houses. How do you think a woman, let alone a transgendered person, is going to do in that environment, no matter how good they are in the game, especially given how people were back then, and especially seeing how you are right now? There's somebody out there saying Ramilia played in the LCS, and she was transgender, and she did a fantastic job, but ultimately she left the LCS because of all of the insane hate that was thrown her way, and it wasn't on the nature of her being political. She was not a very political person. She was not very outspoken. She was just there to play the game. Just like how you claim to just want to watch the game. How you don't want to turn it political, but here we are. And I want to be clear, I'm misspeaking. When we're talking about pronouns and inclusion, it's common to call these things political. They're not. They're just a matter of humans' rights. While we're on the topic of thought experiments, let's take a minute to think. What's the barrier of entry for TFT? Computer that can run TFT, and you just need to be good at the game. That's it. You need to have a computer, you need to be able to hit top 160 to play in a tournament, and you can be a professional TFT player. Now let's think. What other games or competitive circuits have relatively low barriers of entry that also have or have had representation amongst their top level competitors? Games like StarCraft or Super Smash Bros. Or even the competitive circuit that is games done quick, speedrunning. And this is just naming a few. But the thing that all of these games have in common is that there's not a board of people that are making the decision whether they're going to sign you to the team. There's not a team of people that you have to worry if you're going to mesh with. And face it, these boards, these teams, they're almost always comprised entirely of cisgendered men. And we'd be lying if we said that that didn't put members of already underrepresented groups at direct potential for discrimination when it comes to the scouting or tryout process. And thankfully, despite the discrimination that transgender and non-binary people have faced and evidently continue to face today, we continue to see transgender and non-binary representation increase in TFT. From Jirachi and her first experiences on the main broadcast that you're criticizing right now, to Cora and her impressive feat of reaching first to rank 1 in Challenger in set 4.5, and to most recently, Rainplosion, who absolutely dominated North American teamfight tactics in set 7 and ultimately had a strong performance at the world stage. Not to mention the names we haven't heard yet, the people who haven't found our community and despite your best efforts will be welcomed with open arms. That being said, perhaps you're like, all right, Gooba, we've been here for over 20 minutes. You never discussed his final solution, his magnum opus. And I guess it's about time for that, so we should probably hear him out.
For example, if you snuck...
Oh, wait a minute. Hey guys, sorry, pause. Hey, DK, we forgot to put one of those Zoomer attention-grabbing videos in. Put that in a couple seconds. All right, thanks.
The pronouns into a bio at the start of the stream when you're introducing the players, no one would even bat an eye. Eventually, once it's more mainstream and people are more used to it, then maybe you could start including it in more and more places. Why am I telling you guys how to do this? It's really easy to criticize something, especially if you don't provide your own solution, but I have one right here.
You know, that really makes me think. Maybe he's right. You know what? I actually have some ideas that we can add on to that. What if Wisdom, Giant Slayer, what if you guys start to add some non-binary and transgender casters? And then, now that we've got more representation on the broadcast, maybe we'll get some players that also add to the representation. And then, now that we've got the players, maybe we'll interview them a little bit, and then people will get used to having non-binary and transgender players in the competitive scene. Wait, you're telling me that's not enough? That despite all of that, we're still getting people misgendering and being transphobic to the casters and players during the streams? So what do we do now? We've taken all these steps to slowly incorporate inclusion into our stream, but still, people are misgendering. People are still being transphobic. They're not used to it. So what else can we do? Wait, I have an idea. How about whenever we're showing a player's perspective in-game, or whenever we're having a caster speak, we put the pronouns clearly on stream. So now it's impossible for anyone to ever misgender one of our players, one of our employees. You know what? It's kind of a good idea. Now it makes it easier to moderate chat too. And it makes it so much easier to tell who's well-intentioned. Wait a minute. That's right, dumbass. You came up with the solution that they've been working at all along. So congrats, you played yourself. And for someone who proclaims to be so critical and has been paying attention to the competitive scene for so many years, that seems to be a massive oversight. All this is telling me, if all these claims that you're making are true, you're one of two things. You're an idiot or you're a bigot. There's no in between. I'll be honest with you. Now, with all that being said, these are all the steps that Wisdom, Riot, and Giant Slayer are taking to slowly build the community up, to build a community of inclusion and filter out the filth. A method that's tried and true. Ken Chen, known as Esports Hotbit, wrote a couple thoughts on the matter that I'm going to throw up on screen. You can pause and read them. I'm just trying to save some time for all of us. So why does his opinion matter? Esports Hotbit has been quintessential to developing the Dota 2 and Super Smash Bros. Competitive scenes. People like him who have a long history of community building and knowing what you need to do to really make a place that people want to be in, people want to be proud to be a part of. And we're in the process of doing exactly just that. And the video that BunnyMuffin's made is a byproduct of that, of banning the shitters. And we will continue to do just that. Now, I feel like we're coming to a close. For the things that I didn't address, topics I didn't discuss, if you want to listen in excruciating detail as tales of autofellatio, then feel free. With that, we'll call it a wrap. People who may still struggle to understand, all I ask is keep your mind open, be tolerant, educate yourself. In time, you will understand. To the transgender and non-binary people out there, I look forward to seeing your continued success. I look forward to hearing the voices of those who aren't ready to speak yet. And most importantly, the bunny and those who think like him. A question that's been posed by Rainplosion, Set 7, world finalist. I ask you to pause, read, and answer her question. Was the problem that she existed, or that some Twitch chatters were assholes? To the transphobes, the racists, the misogynists, the all-inclusive aforementioned shitters, don't play with me. Don't play with us. And to everybody who's stuck through this video, who's listened to my words, well, minus a couple of you, I appreciate your time. I don't know if I'll continue to do anything like this, but feel free to subscribe. If you want to hear more of my thoughts, you can follow me on Twitter, GubaTFT. If you haven't gathered by now, I play TFT live at twitch.tv/Guba almost every day. And I welcome you to come hang out and just watch TFT.